Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons. Welcome to Strange Eons Radio, episode number 199.
Whoa.
That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That's Vanessa over there.
Ooh.
Kelly.
Well, it is coming. This will be coming out a couple days before Halloween.
I was not expecting that.
I'm a ghost.
Yeah, speaking of Halloween, big plans for Halloween? You guys doing parties or anything like that?
I haven't had a single second to think about Halloween until after the day after I got married. So currently my entire apartment is strewn with Halloween stuff meant to be put in places. I'm going to decorate tonight.
Nice.
And
You're running out of time. I hope you leave it up for 366 days.
I will definitely leave it up well into November. And maybe just redress some of those same items for Christmas. Give them all jaunty hats.
Yeah.
I like that. My my brother always throws a big party up at his place.
Yeah.
Eric,
Oh,
you know how
cool.
cool his place is.
Yeah, yes.
And it usually involves live music and drinking till the wee small hours of the morning. So.
Oh,
As
that's so
opposed
cool.
to the other parties your family has.
Okay, well, every party usually includes live music and drinking to the wee
I-
small hours of the morning.
I'm
But this
hop-
time we'll be doing it in costume.
Nice.
Nice.
Do you know what your costume's going to be?
It's always the same. I
Your-
dress up like a devil.
Oh,
Your
that's cool.
jacket.
Jacket,
The red jacket, yeah.
the red velvet jacket. I put some horns in my head, and then I sit on people's shoulders and go, "Oh, you know what you should do."
Nice.
Every year I've been trying, one day I will perfect my Wicker Man costume. One day.
What?
It's my favorite thing to try and do is the first one went terribly wrong. It was just pieces of cardboard boxes with rope glued around the outside, and I had to take a bus to the party I was going to. By the time I got there, it had unraveled. But I did have like little pockets of areas for like animals, and I had a little Playmobil policeman in there. So that has been one of my Facebook profile pictures on and off, is just me in that costume, because it's just so fun to try to dress up like the Wicker Man.
You should do that again.
What about you, Eric?
I'm hoping to finally make it up for at least a day for Bleedingham.
Oh, cool.
Because the guys who run that are so great.
Yeah, is that over Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay.
Halloween weekend. But I'm hoping to go up for that.
Listener, Bleedingham is a horror film festival up in Bellingham, Washington.
Run by some cool people that we know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Has anybody bothered with Halloween Ends?
Not yet.
Gonna watch it tonight
Streaming in the comfort of your own living room?
in somebody else's sticky theater seat.
Gross.
Find a new theater.
No, it's actually pretty clean. I'll probably go to Totem Lake or, Lincoln Square or one of those.
Well, put it on the list to talk about next
Yeah.
week then, because I'm curious. I'm sure I will have watched it by then. The reviews from people I trust, not exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to finish this experience
Sure.
Yeah.
of these movies and,
yeah.
give John Carpenter a little bit more money for his coffers between, I'm sure he has a small producing credit, but definitely the music credit. And,
sure.
And character credit. And I hear it's really weird, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I heard it was weird also. Not in a good way.
I mean, the middle one, you can't get much weirder. I was starting with mob mentality's bad and this guy's life was ruined, and then being like, yeah, mob mentality, go for it. Like, what is your messaging? Also, my theory at this point is all he wants to do is go home. He murdered everyone on his way home. He's home now. Leave him there. Just close the door. He's happy. If y'all just let him be in his home, maybe it's going to be just fine. I'm sure the third movie will upend that, but that is the what I took away from this entire experience so far.
My whole problem with this new trilogy has been, what's Jamie Lee's name in this?
Laurie?
Laurie Strode goes through this horrific thing. She's got PTSD all these years. She
Yeah.
finds it easier to stay in the same town and build a house that is a gigantic trap for this guy rather than just moving to a different place and getting on with her life. It's ridiculous.
Not the greatest method of therapy.
No, I mean, she should get therapy, is what I was trying to say.
Yes.
I mean, they're building a fun character, and they're giving a cool role to a aging actress who gets to relive.
She's not the problem.
She's not the
herself.
problem.
I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis's performances are not the
There's
problem.
some writing issues.
Yeah.
The problem is really that they did a much better job of this with H2O, and they made her a realistic person who had gone through something like this and was now dealing with trauma, but she had changed her name and moved to a different state and all this stuff that made sense.
Yeah.
And they had, was it LL Cool J?
Yes, of course, LL Cool J.
I mean, you can't get any better than H2O. That was the first Halloween movie I ever saw. So
I actually think it stands up. Kevin Williamson's script.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with that one.
Okay, something
you have seen.
I have to?
You have seen. Something you have seen, I mean.
Well, I would like to talk about a book, actually, that I am in the middle of reading right now. It's pretty grim stuff. It is called Fly By Night, and it deals with the investigation into the helicopter accident in the movie Twilight Zone.
Oh, crap.
And I'm only about halfway through it, but they have painted a picture of a out-of-control director who flaunted the rules constantly and was pretty cavalier about the accident after it happened. And I really, have come to just fucking hate John Landis after this. And I'm like, no wonder his son is such a prick. If this is the kind of thing you grow up with, is just this complete lack of the ability to take responsibility for something. And it is some really grim stuff because they go through the accident pretty thoroughly, telling you, moment by moment what happens. And then they go through the investigation, and everybody involved was just like, we got to protect this guy. And it was like, fuck all of you.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's interesting. Did it sound like he was under the influence or something like during the period? Because I wasn't sure if it was like, it's this time we're all doing drugs.
They talk a little bit about that he'd been known to do coke, just like everybody in the industry in the 80s, but that there was no indication that he had done anything that day or anything like that. But they paint a picture on his previous films of him being very loosey-goosey with dangerous stunts and stuff like that, and having like that huge Blues Brother ending.
Oh, yeah.
The stunt people in that saying, we are really lucky that nobody died in this particular movie also.
Wow.
So they lay out a pretty good case that this was his fault.
Well,
But it's interesting because he was, blacklisted for a very, very long time. I don't know if he's still allowed to.
Well, not immediately. I mean, immediately after this, he goes and does Trading Places, has a massive hit with that. Coming to America.
If you're wealthy, powerful, we're watching it in heavy real time throughout our country right now. If you're wealthy and powerful, you can escape stuff for a long time. Sometimes it catches up to you, like what's his name, the sleazy producer who Miramax
Weinstein.
Yeah, sometimes, but boy, it doesn't seem to very often.
I met John Landis when when I went to film school. I was going to film school in the UK and England, and this like old kind of rundown used to be like a really popular studio called Ealing Studios, and they had just kind of taken up a little residence in there. And he came on for kind of finishing production on Burke and Hare, and we saw an early cut. And I remember watching this movie being like, "This has some severe racism in it, like." Uncomfortable, uncool racism in it. And he came in, he was really proud and he was really cocky. And he was, I personally don't do well with that personality type. So I was just like, okay, everyone's fawning over this guy and they're like desperate for his autograph. And I just don't know. But I don't know, that upsets me that I'm too good for the rules and other people's lives don't mean anything compared to my shitty vision.
Yeah.
Even if it's a good vision. I mean, Michael Bay, I have a very similar set of concerns. Like, I just don't feel good about, no movie is worth killing people.
Yeah, and they go into depth onto the original drafts of the screenplay. I don't know if you remember his segment. His segment in the Twilight Zone movie is a man who's very racist and then has to go. He has to basically walk in the shoes of the Jews that were put into the trains, and then it flashes to a different thing where he's in a Vietnam village, and that's, of course, where the horrible accident happened. There's another one where he is chased by Ku Klux Klan members and all this stuff. But the original drafts of the script, I guess, were so the derogatory names and language used was making the other people in Warner Brothers or Universal, I think it was, going, hey, we need to do something about this. We don't feel comfortable particularly just having this guy spouting this language off, but also he never changes. We need to give him something to, humanize him, to give this story a moral. And unfortunately, that was having him rescue 2 Vietnamese children in this village. And that's when the accident happened and killed him and those 2 children.
Wow.
So it's like fascinating stuff, but boy, it's grim stuff to be reading before bed every night. So. And you know what? Now I'm putting the math together. I have been having nightmares for the last week or so.
Maybe you read it at lunchtime or something.
Maybe I need to go back to comic books before bed.
That's a much better plan, I think. Well, I watched it. I'm sure you both managed to catch it too. The new Hellraiser movie.
Oh, well, there you go.
Indeed. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you guys felt about it. I thought it was totally okay. I didn't think it was incredible, but there was a lot to like within it.
The third best Hellraiser film overall.
Yeah.
I mean, take 1 and 2 out of it. You're not looking at a very high bar to be the third best in that series of films.
I mean, but there's something I love about some of the schlocky nature of some of the other Hellraiser movies. So it's like, I don't know, if you're not spitting CDs, what are you doing?
Well, she's no Doug Bradley, but I thought she was really cool looking. And
she did a great job. There was a lot of cool looking shit in here.
The redesign of the Cenobites at first, I was like, what is going on? And then as I'm watching, going, these are really cool.
Yeah, it looks like the costumes are, instead of being leather, they're more like flayed body parts. And I was like, oh, that seems like a no-brainer. How come they weren't always like this? Yeah. I thought some of the Cenobites were really cool. I liked a lot of the buildup. Once they all ended up in the house and it turned into kind of a 90s teen horror movie, I was really bummed. I also didn't like the new mechanism of the box. If it just cuts you that draws them.
Being the geek of the Hellraiser, I think of the 3 of us, they totally rewrote the meaning of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only reason it didn't bother me as much as what they did in the shitty sequels when they rewrote the rules for the box is they laid it out. They said, this is what it's going to be now, as opposed to where the original 2 films, it's like you have to have sought it out. You have to want to open it. Innocent hands cannot be destroyed by the Cenobites just because they accidentally opened the box.
Right.
So they removed all of that, and now it's like the person who wants the power has to get sacrifices to pull the Cenobites, and the Cenobites take those sacrifices, and after, I don't know, a random number apparently of sacrifices, then the original person gets to be tortured themselves.
That reveal of him and the mechanism in his chest was that was uncomfortable.
That was fun. I did like that, like it going off and him being like, like that was pretty gnarly. But I just really wanted that moment of like, you can't beat it from the second film where he's like, had I known, I would not have hesitated. Like, you're just like, if this guy is so into it, like, I just wish he'd like have embraced something about it more. And it just, there's some kind of weak moments throughout that I just kept feeling like if only they did this thing or said that thing but that being said, they did a terrific job, especially compared to like the last, I don't know, eight
Yeah.
movies.
Nine.
There were a lot of moments that felt very Clive Barker-ish.
Yes.
So that was nice.
It sounded like he was pretty involved.
Yeah, and the idea that when you've been exposed to this, the world is starting to change around you and only in ways only you can see. I thought that was really interesting.
Cool. And
That
the way the
car.
world changed looked really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that maybe we got too much of the Cenobites.
Maybe.
Because of what you commented before, because of the turning it into an assault on Precinct 13, whatever moments, and having them just sort of stand out there.
Yeah.
I was like, no, what?
Yeah, I think the first movie works so well because there's some real creepy horror shit going on with Uncle Frank.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole body coming back to life and needing skin and all that stuff. And then the Cenobites being this other creepy background thing that we really don't get much of until the very end. I think that works better. And I would have liked to have seen something that was a little closer to that.
Yep.
I was really waiting for the brother to be, coming back and slowly being refleshed, or she getting the thing that she asked for, and it was not what she would like. That horror moment felt a little bit ripped away from me.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? You mentioned that. I think that might have been a much better A plot.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff could have been going on. But it does give me hope that maybe we see a new franchise where, this stuff can be played upon a little better going forward.
Yeah,
so.
definitely. I watched it with Dina, which kind of surprised me. Like, I want to see the new Hellraiser movies. Oh, I'll see that. It's like,
you will?
Are you sure?
Awesome.
Because the horror movies she generally likes are far more, slasher kind of stuff, the more fun stuff. And Hellraiser's kind of dark and grim when it really gets going. So we're sitting there watching this movie, and at one point, one of the flayed skin scenes, she looks at me with this wonderfully deadpan thing. She's like, I have come to a conclusion. I'm like, yes. I do not think I particularly care for this movie.
Beautiful. That should be on its tombstone.
It was perfect.
Oh.
Well said.
Well, I watched an Australian film, and I think you saw me post about it someplace or something. Next of Kin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe on Letterboxd or something. Have you seen this one?
This is not the Patrick Swayze.
No.
Okay.
This is an Australian horror film from the 80s, probably. Grim little tale, I guess you could say. It's
Australian horror?
yeah,
Grim?
it's Australian horror, which is I think they do some really interesting stuff.
They do.
They don't do a lot, but they do really interesting. And I heard about this one on some podcast group was talking about how when he was growing up in Australia, this was the movie him and his friends were always pulling those quotes from and saying things from. And it was just, well, we're seeing nice, dark, grim one. I believe it's on Shudder right now. I got it from picked it up because of them, but also got it from Severin, of course. But so I have to go back and see what it does. It starts off fine, moves a little slow. It's got some Italian, not quite giallo, but Italian horror feel to it. But the ending is wild, incredibly cool the way it's shot and just over the top. So I was like, all right, this is good.
Is it what is the basic plot around it?
There's a lady in a old folks home, kind of taking care of some of them, and it's just things that go on around in there while she's
nice, cool. Yeah, for some reason in my head, Australian horror can only mean somebody gets hitchhiked or stolen on the side of the dirt road, and you will see them later running in the dirt road with headlights on them.
That is
covered in blood.
That is a fair assumption for an Australian. No, this one all takes place almost all in a house of a lady who's dealing with her grandmother's death and going through her diary and figuring out there's more going on here than I thought.
Yeah,
and there is.
You guys catch the finale of The Rings of Power?
Yes.
Did indeed, yes.
So first of all, a couple weeks back, they had that amazing episode 5 or whatever it was. And I was like, holy shit, this show is really cooking. And then at the end of it, it said, next week on the series or finale. I was like, what the fuck? All I've done is just rail against these shows that had too many episodes. And now they finally get going good with this thing. And they give us episode 6. More answers than I expected to get.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was really surprised at all the reveals in that last episode.
Yeah.
The thing, not unlike what we were talking about with She-Hulk, but not quite the same, where we got the Lord of the Ring dorks who are losing their mind over this.
Right.
Mhm.
There's this weird Reddit, Twitter subreddit, that image of Galadriel and Sauron in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Is what they're thinking. I can't believe they're making this into a romantic story about them as a couple. I'm like, do you know anything about film?
Wow. Yeah.
All? If that's what you got out of that scene.
Oh my God.
But man, it's this big tirade by this one guy, and I found 2 or 3 others. Just this,
Wow.
like, wow, you have so missed the point of this movie or this show.
Those are people who want to be mad, and they've been waiting for that exact thing that they can misconstrue to make themselves angry. Yeah, I mean, I think the only problem I've had with this series, honestly, has been some edit decisions and some pacing moments.
Yeah.
That was definitely, for me, when we had a reveal of which character might be the I don't know, Lord of Darkness. What the hell do you call him? Just Sauron.
Sauron.
Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, we're really whizzing through this like strange like carpentry scene here. And now, okay, there we are. All right, we're here now. Cool. Good to know. Like, this is really oddly fast paced. Like, let me help you guys. I'm conveniently standing here and I happen to have the answer to the question you're asking for. Let me just jump on in. So I just felt like we were leading, and then like end. So I don't know. I didn't have I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it for the most part. The Harfoots actually being able to do battle with these magical evil creatures, I was like, well, this is stretching this a little bit. I wish you hadn't shown how powerful these guys were before we start seeing Harfoots throw rocks at them, and that's enough to distract them.
Yeah, I'd say they still lost though, to an extent.
Yeah.
Sorta.
Like, kind of more. Like,
I love that reveal of that character, though.
that character had a
That was
great reveal.
So good.
Very, very, very solid. Yeah, they really liked playing with us on our assumptions as to where directions we're gonna go. Which is pretty fun.
Yeah. So I was, at the end of that, I was like, man, that was halfway decent. And then I was like, fuck. We gotta wait a fucking year for the next one now? For the next 6 episodes, you assholes?
And in the meantime, Amazon's like, we're going to cut our budget on all these other things. So I'm like,
Not only that, yeah, I mean, this entire season was shot in New Zealand to give it that Lord of the Rings feeling, but the next season will not be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, next season is being brought over here.
Uh-oh.
So I'm like, well, why? Why not keep? I mean,
if
that's got to
Vikings
be.
could, sit their pretty butts over and overseas for 7-8 years or whatever, why can't they?
Absolutely. And New Zealand, I'm sure,
They'll give them a tax credit.
that
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the people you put to work at this place and everything, they got to be going, wait a second. Well, what about us?
Yeah,
I thought we were going to
sure.
get fed for like at least a few more years.
Right.
That's too bad. That would have been awesome.
Well, did you guys see the season finale of another great big fantasy epic, Game of Thrones?
Was that the season finale?
Was it not the season
I don't know. I
finale?
thought it was, but then it felt like, but they had the preview.
Okay, maybe
They had a
not.
preview
then.
at the end.
You know what? There are so many shows.
Yeah, no,
Because Lower Decks is still going, and I'm like, could you guys? I have October still happening. I will say though, I did also try to dip into a couple of horror TV shows, and I can warn you guys against one in particular,
Okay.
which is obvious from watching anything having to do with it, including the poster. But Surreal Estate.
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, me either.
I think it was on Hulu. I was like, sure, this looks like shit. Let's throw it on. It was
We're rubbing off on you, Vanessa.
really. Yeah, I was like, I can watch one episode of this and I could barely get through it. But It's a guy who is doing real estate for haunted houses, and he has to kind of go in and find a way to get rid of the, whatever entity is happening in there.
That movie I showed at Maelstrom all those years ago at MIF was that, where it was a very fun, goofy little comedy movie. I'm totally blanking on the name of right now, but that's exactly what it was.
I think this is also ripping off of that HBO guy, Nathan Fielder, that you watched one episode of and hated me forever.
Right.
He did an episode where he was like helping people out of a different show of his. And one of them was, oh, you need a good new real estate business slogan. You will be the ghost lady. Like, so he redid this woman's real estate campaign. So she like helps sell haunted houses. And then she actually now does that, and she has a show coming out about that. So I was like, I feel like somebody saw this episode or came across something and they were like, I'm just going to go all the way with it, but with bad actors and a bad script and bad writing. And one of my characters by the end of the episode turns out she's telekinetic. It was just intolerable all the way through. Terrible. The guy is awful to look at. I just, nothing about, don't watch the real estate unless you just need something on in the background like I did for half an hour, 40 minutes.
What did you think of House of the Dragon?
Oh, sorry. Well, I just wanted to bail on it because, I think it's been interesting because it's been yo-yoing my attention pretty hardcore. I think you're right. There's still a few more. I've been... I'm glad Matt Smith and Patty Constantine are not being recast as we go along because they are such talented, incredible forces of acting.
Well, they start out as an adult, so they don't have to worry about recasting.
Totally. And they can just keep making Patty look awful. It's easy to, just throw more crap on his face. Those people that aren't watching it, what they've done with this one is they introduce the children. Most of the kids that are going to grow up are teens in the first few episodes, and then they jump forward to where they're late teens, early 20s, and then they jump forward a little bit to where they're kind of adults. But I'm glad because Matt Smith, I think, he's got the potential to be the Dinklage of this. He does
series. He is really good, and they're molding his character so well because he started out as a flat out asshole.
Yep.
And now they're moving him into something different.
He sees something that like you want the rest of the characters to see, and he's acting in a way that you want anyone to do. So when he does whatever he's going to do, you're like, yeah, at least somebody did it.
Yeah.
There's a level of tension throughout each episode that I'm really enjoying, where it's like, oh God, now the kids hate each other and they're gonna murder each other randomly, and I'm constantly just waiting at the edge of my seat, like who is just gonna die for no reason brutally right now. But I think that there's some really good tension. I think that there's some good stuff going on in it. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. It doesn't make me feel good. I feel pretty gross at the end, but it's a Game of Thrones.
The overall on-screen violence and sex has been turned down a lot from Game of Thrones, but the good threats, I don't know what's going to happen with some of these psychotic people is still pretty damn good.
Yeah, because even the two characters that start off as best friends and then slowly through politics end up being strained from each other, but still at least one of them has a heart of wanting to be friends with the other one still. You can kind of see that. And the other one's like, are you going to murder my children or are we actually friends? And there is that weird tension there, and they actually effectively do it. And I think that just takes a lot of talented
it's pretty good
performers. Yeah.
Well,
I got two, so.
Sort of. On the disappointing end, Dark Glasses.
God, I've been wondering.
Argento's new film.
Oh, no.
Argento continues to be fine. Especially since I just watched, Inferno 2 or 3 weeks ago. The storyline is a lady gets blinded in a car accident. And in the car accident, she kills the parents of this little kid, who's 7 or 8 probably. And then she sort of steals the kid and adopts him. Not legally, of course. And he becomes her eyes. And that seems to make very little difference to the way the movie progresses and the way the world happens. It's not terrible. I think it's one of the better ones he's done in a few years. Better than Mother of Tears or some of those Dracula 3D. Oh man, it is. At least it feels a little bit like an Argento film, which those two didn't. I didn't think at all. And it has. I never expect great acting in an Argento movie, so it has that kind of acting. So I mean, it's fine.
He's 82 years old.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I don't know what that means for him, but I know what it means for most people. And you're not at your peak at 82.
Right. Yep. And movie making is grueling.
Yeah.
That's not sitting in an office in any way. So his daughter's in the film, but she's not in it very much, but she's like second billing. So I would not be surprised if she was involved in helping, because she's having a hard time getting work on her own now for many reasons.
Right.
So, and I'm sure Dario's like, well, I'll help you.
Well, kudos to Shudder for getting that as an original film. That's pretty cool. They can say that.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. It's still Argento. I mean, it's not bad. It's like I said, I think it's the best one he's done in a few years.
Right. High praise.
Yeah.
All right. How about we take a little break, and then when we come back, we're turning the egg timer on, and we're talking about Blumhouse movies.
The fucking egg timer. It's back.
We have a better, more useful phone number because this one actually works. So please call us and leave us a voicemail for our 200th episode at 253-237-4266. Again, that's 253-237-4266.
Uh-huh. Oh. What's up?
Hey, Chelsea, it's Brock.
It's Brock.
Brock! Would you come get me?
Yeah, we can come get you. Brock? Brock, are you there?
Let's go.
Of Blumhouse, featuring Freaky and the Black Phone, only at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights.
And we're back. Eric, I mean, this has kind of been a group thing, but this was the new one is your choice, and that is?
Blumhouse.
Blumhouse. I don't know that it stacks up to, say, last week's Full Moon Pictures, but they've done a movie or two that I like.
Yeah. They've got, I was a little surprised looking up how many movies Blumhouse has been involved in. I mean, there are a lot.
A lot.
Right.
Not just, the ones they released with their title on it, but a whole bunch of other stuff that they're involved in producing, which is actually one of the ones I watched.
Oh.
It did not start with, at least the version I saw, did not start with the little Blumhouse thing. Do I need some ticking? I'm not hearing any ticking.
Let me break out my favorite new toy, which is this ridiculously sized egg timer, and put 10 minutes on the clock. Starting now.
Sick. Oh, stretch. All right.
Starting now.
We're ready to go. All right. So I did Hurt, which either came out in 2018 or 2021.
What's it called?
Look. Hurt.
Oh.
You're home.
I'm home.
So are you guys going into town for Halloween?
No, we don't do that anymore. We've matured.
You guys should go. It's your tradition.
Help me! Trick or treat.
Just go to the hero.
have fun? It looked like you were having fun. Now you know what it's like to hurt like I hurt.
It's not real. It's not real. It's not real.
H-U-R-T. That's why I said this is one of those, there's like 6 studios involved, and Blumhouse is the last one listed.
They were like, I guess we'll
they're involved.
distribute this.
And I watched this partially because the Rotten Tomatoes score was 71 from the critics and 70 from the crowd.
Okay.
Wow.
Directed by Sonny Malhai, who's done Family Blood, Anguish, and lots of executive producer credits. I mean, a lot of them, like The Lake House, The Strangers, Old Boy.
Wow.
Hurt.
Jesus.
Written by Solomon Gray, whose only listing was Crybaby, and Sonny Malhai, who also has Anguish and Family Blood. And acting, Emily Van Ray. Movies, Thank You for Your Patience. I don't know what that is. And Beneath Cracked Pavement.
Huh.
So Art House Extreme,
Right.
maybe. Andrew Creer, Lethal Weapon TV show, and 1,000 Little Cuts. Bradley Hamilton was I Make Corpses, A Chance for Christmas, and A Storybook Christmas.
They must be Canadian.
So the movie starts out with images on or words on the screen. In 2012, a girl went camping with her sister and her mother. As usual, the teenage girl wanted nothing to do with her mother or her sister. And at that writing, I'm going, uh-oh.
You mean that's what it actually says?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
In two segments. The first half, and then it sits on an empty screen for a while, and then the second half
To
comes
really
up.
let you soak it in.
And that opening shot of the trees and the sky, 40 seconds, a minute long, it just kept hanging. I'm going, this is either going to be really A24 and successful or A24 failure. But it's definitely art-minded thinking. As you get that starting out of the view there and a song that I thought would not sound out of place in a Starbucks playing over the image. Cut to another card saying New Edinburgh, Illinois, with a very slow fade out as the music fades. And we see this as a field of grass now with the music playing at a lower level. And we're moved through the field of tall grass. You see a hand wave up in the air and start kind of waving around like they're listening to the music, and you move in close and it's the lady with the headphones on. I'm assuming the teen girl they're referring to earlier. I'm still okay. Let's see where this goes. And this is Rose, the teen girl. She goes back to find a tent that's covered in blood. Can't find her mom and dad. And then some character shows up with a large man with a baby kind of mask. My first thought was immediately of a short film called Doll Boy by Billy Pawn, maker of The Great Circus of the Dead, is featured at the Crypticon Seattle Film Festival several years ago.
Plug.
Sure.
But next we get cut out, and this is somebody sitting on a couch watching this as a movie.
Oh.
So like, you just gave me 5 minutes of that to tell me it's a movie, and then the character on screen breaks the fourth wall. So I'm like, hold on, is this like she's watching a kill thrill video or something that she's going to give an answer to what the guy should do next? I have no idea because it never addresses that. She just goes to work.
I already hate this movie.
So, but it's spooky because, hey, here's a shot of Halloween decorations in a graveyard.
Of course.
So, we're good.
Okay.
Then we go to the woman at work, like looks like a convenience store or something, and there's some guy creeping around. Like, who is that? It's her husband Tommy, back from war. Yay!
Oh.
The emotion runs low.
Wow. Damn.
Well, when you're trying this hard to be artsy,
Yeah.
it pushes against me. Where it's like, if you're gonna do it, but make sure you're hitting the notes, because some of them are really good. Some work really well and look really cool.
Yeah.
But that scene was set up to be kind of a scary thing. So when she realizes who it is, you're like, huh. As opposed to if they built it up to be something, this is something interesting, something might be happening here, but it's not scary or creepy. And that would have been a neat little scene. I mean, who doesn't like reunion scenes of the military when you see those on YouTube?
Absolutely love
it.
Yeah,
Those are fantastic. The movie's setting up a lot, and some of it's really good. I'm still rolling with it, actually, at this point, despite my caustic comments there, because I don't have that weird gene that a lot of horror fans seem to have that just automatically hate the elevated horror movies, no matter how good they are. I've seen a ton of comments for those recently on horror fan pages I follow, just dismissing all of them as being crap. It's like, okay. Then they go to this big haunted attraction, which is really cool. And the sound work for about 10 minutes is phenomenal. So I'm watching on headphones and the sound is bouncing around in the headphones and it's moving. I was like, damn, that is really good. Some decent character setup with the guy having PTSD and his friends not understanding that and not caring and her trying to help him. Unfortunately, that is set up nicely and then just sort of abandoned.
Oh, no. Because it's such a good location to play with that.
Oh, man. It is such a cool thing. And the basis for the rest of the movie is pretty much something or someone follows them home from the Halloween event. Notes and trivia. How am I doing? Plenty of time. It's not so fun when it happens to you.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Had a world premiere at Fantasia International Film Festival on 2018, but then wasn't really released for a while. Released by Gravitas Ventures. Why do I mention these trivia things? There's not a lot of trivia on this movie. Wow. But production companies. Here's the production companies in the Shotgun Shack, Zed Film Productions. Man, I hope that's not the Zed I know as a filmmaker. Not personally know, but know of. 1031 Productions, Eggplant Productions, and Blumhouse. Distributed by Gravitas Ventures. And one of the reviews of the movie just disparaged Gravitas so badly. I'm going, I got to look up, see what these guys put out. And it's a lot of nothing. I don't think I've ever seen a list of horror films that I've known less movies in it, except they have Jughead, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, I like that.
And Sound of Violence, which was so close to being great. And Paranormal Prison.
Oh, God. Paranormal Prison. There you go.
They can't all be winners.
That's right. It's supposed to be based in Illinois, but it was actually shot in Ottawa, Canada. The producer says, because it's an amazing place for production, has fantastic crew and cast. Over the years, I've doubled Ottawa for Afghanistan, New York, Toronto, and anywhere small town America, including LA. It's a great city with many different location possibilities. I'm like, Afghanistan to LA, all right.
He didn't say he successfully doubled Ottawa.
Good point. Say Washington could definitely do that, guys.
So the haunt was so cool. I'm like, this has got to be a real thing. And I had a hard time finding it, but luckily one of the reviews that just trashed this film mentioned it's like an advertisement for the Saunders Halloween Park at Saunders Farm. Oh, thank you. So then I looked that up, which is in Munster, Ontario. Firefight, it's called Fright Fest at Saunders Farm, is Canada's #1 haunted attraction with multiple haunted attractions, a stage show, a street theater, fresh food, and homemade confections. It's there to thrill you. You are not guaranteed to see all attractions. Arrive early.
Wow. I want to go.
The reviews on IMDb are kind of interesting. I didn't write poll reviews, but it was like a 9, a 10, a 2, or a 1. There were just a couple in between those.
Oh, Eric, I'm sorry.
Nailed it. That was my last note.
Done. Wow.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this, you said someone or something, is it supernatural?
That is where the movie lost me the most. No, it is not.
Okay.
But it sets up beautifully when they leave the thing. There's a great jump scare that really works. And then I'm like, okay, here's where it starts to go. And then it's like 10 to 15 minutes before anything happens again. And that's where the movie really lost me. The ending after that is pretty good. It has some great moments, but that blank shot for 10 whatever minutes in the leading into the third act was just like, damn it. Because so much is done so well. And I think that the filmmaker could go on to make some really neat things. And it's a bunch of the reviews I read for it from like Fantasia Fest and some places like that were very much like, there's some talent here. Let's get this guy reeled in, because the stuff that's good is really good.
Oh, cool.
Did it feel like the pretension ever dissipated? Like,
I
did
didn't
it
feel it was as pretentious is the weird part, except that opening scene.
Except for the opening scene. Okay.
A lot of the rest sort of worked, but it just needed I don't know. I would definitely check out something from this director again.
Interesting. Okay.
Are you ready for your timer to be set? Shall we give you a moment? You have a
I was
sneeze
actually
there?
giving her, a running start.
You're just going to let me get going and then.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, while you're setting that up, speaking of kind of pretentious movies.
All right.
I went with the 2021 movie, The Deep House.
Nervous?
Maybe a little.
Apparently it's very difficult to access. At the bottom of this part of the lake, there's a perfectly preserved house.
Let's go. There she is.
Everything stayed exactly how it was.
It's pitch black. I can't see a thing.
Let's get to that.
Which has been briefly mentioned on the show
Yes.
before. So, have you both seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might have called this my favorite movie last year or something.
Oh,
Yeah, it was very high on the
Yeah.
I liked it too.
Okay. Well, critics agree with you because they give it a 74%, but the audience disagree because they have a 32%.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a huge gap. Budget of ? Box office of 1.9 million. I think that these numbers mean nothing in the age of streaming.
That's true.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way anymore. So we're gonna find this more and more with recent films. Writer director, kind of two dudes who seem to work together a lot. Alexander Bustillo, who's written and directed 7 things, and Julianne Maury, who's done 9. Both did Candisha, Inside, ABCs of Death 2, a segment from that. Alexander directed Leatherface. So they've been working around on a couple of things here and there. Starring Camille Rowe, who's been in 26 things, including Cosmic Dawn, No Limit, Knuckle Dust, Invasion TV series, of which she was in 2 episodes, and a lot of Dior music videos, which I think maybe Dior, the perfume, sponsored some or something. I'm not quite sure, as well as The Strokes, MGMT, and was a Victoria's Secret / Dior model. Also in it, James Jagger, 17 credits, including vinyl TV series as Kip, Gangster Kittens, Sound of Violence, and something else we'll get to later. And Eric Savin, 157 credits. There are basically 3 people in this movie. He is the guy you could tell they got him for a day. He has 157 credits, including Tell No One, Elle, Par le Song. He's a very eclectic, I'd say, or well-known or well-used French actor. So, plot.
I'm still stuck on the kittens.
I was like, have I seen this movie? It sounds awful. Maybe I know somebody who made this movie. It's very possible. The plot. A couple who are explorers are checking out this old abandoned building in Ukraine. They're using drone cameras, other really high tech gear, and are going around getting material for this YouTube channel. The dude is like live VOing this aloud as he's walking around going, the building is from blah, blah, blah. And this thing happened here. And I'm like, you can like add this later, right? Like, you don't have to do it, right? I guess that's your thing. That's fine. And he explains that a nurse there poisoned and killed 7 children. And apparently still her spirit roams the halls looking for others to poison, to which his girlfriend Tina, who's there along helping him, says, fuck ghosts. Which will be one of many great quotes throughout this movie. At some point, Ben, the guy, gets a little bit ahead of her, and she's kind of wandering after him, like going down the stairs, getting towards the dark basement, calling after him. And she starts muttering in French, saying that he's a stupid asshole and he constantly does this crap to her. He, of course, then bursts out of a closet and is laughing at her, scaring her, doing a nice little fun jump scare. Cut to 3 months later, for some reason. All right. Tina's in a bathtub. She's testing her ability to hold her breath underwater. She makes it to about 1:22, and then a car honks at her. Ben has arrived to pick her up for their next big excursion. In about 30 seconds, she somehow manages to get out of the bathtub, get dry, get beautiful, and get out to the car. Shockingly, amazingly, I was like, damn, girl, you either made him wait and we cut through that, or you are quick at this. Wow.
Skills.
These 2 people, by the way, are beautiful. They're both like tall, gorgeous people. It's very strange to watch them be like, we gotta go make a YouTube living. Their next plan is to take a road trip out to a town that is underwater, somewhere in the south of France. So they're gonna go scuba diving and recording this place. He doesn't really believe in ghosts, but he wants to get content. His goal is to become a famous YouTube person. He asks, hey, how many minutes did you get up to? You're practicing up there, right? And she's like, 3 minutes. And he's like, that's not good, but I guess it's something we can work with. So we're set up for something that might happen later, I am sure. So Ben, he is a history buff. He is definitely obsessed with, like I said, becoming a YouTube star. His asylum video, he lets us know, only garnered 50,000 views. And he's very disappointed in this, as he should be. That's awful. Tina is his... I'm sorry, but as somebody who makes trailers, that's not a good thing. Tina is his long-suffering American quote-unquote girlfriend. I say that because she's clearly probably Quebecian. She's got a strong French accent, and she slips into perfect French consistently throughout this movie. She mostly is there to go along with him. She doesn't seem to really believe in the cause. She's kind of gotten stuck into being his assistant through this and to be the person who gets freaked out in his videos. And she explains all of her feelings aloud to us consistently in French. They follow the route to this very secret spot, and then they pull up to a lake where it is very popular. There are these zillion people at this very secret spot, and very disappointing to them. So it sounds like this whole thing is going to be thrown off. She's a little bit relieved, obviously, because she couldn't really hold her breath for very long. But they see food vendors there. There's docks. She goes and gets some fries. And while they're hanging out, he's like, you know what? Okay, let's go ahead and just hang out on the lake. No big deal. But while he's grabbing some drinks, he meets Pierre, who apparently is a local to the area, and he knows of a perfectly preserved home underwater somewhere way further down that only he can get them to. Tina's like, oh, great. Okay, I guess it's back on. So they get ready to go out on an adventure, get into the lake, and go check out a perfectly preserved manor underwater. Pierre drives them out there, and when they get there, we kind of follow them through the rest of the film, checking this crazy place out that is indeed haunted. There seems to be a family who's really into the occult, and it's sort of strange, interesting, ritualistic stuff that was going on in there. So what I will say about this film, it looks gorgeous. Yeah. Oh my God, the shots are so effing cool. I couldn't find a lot of information about exactly how they did it, but they did shoot this stuff underwater, and they do address the fact that all this stuff is really perfectly preserved, which I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, the books would have fallen apart and the bodies would be blah, blah, blah. And they say that right up front. They're like, this doesn't make sense. It's strange that not all this stuff looks so good, which is great because it adds to the eerie element and the fact there's weird, satanic stuff all over the place. You don't know what these spells are or what this thing is that's going on, and they don't explain it to us, which is awesome. I loved watching the plants floating and the chairs stacked in weird sort of poltergeist ways, that you could tell something strange was happening when it was hit by water, and something still strange is going on in here. However, oh my God, there's a lot of irritating moments in here. They have no sense of how the internet or YouTube or views or money works at all. There's a lot of, hey, we can get married once I get 1 million views. I'm like, how much money do you think you're going to get when you have 1 million views? He also has this huge 4K camera that has a drone attached to it. It's floating. It works underwater. They have watches that they can do different sound systems to it, which are very cool. How does he afford this if he is desperate to get money on YouTube? So there's some weird things going on with that. There's some strange audio things going on in here as far as how the diegetic versus audio is happening. They have a constant underscore of sound effects that are happening of intense horror score insert here. And then occasionally a sound will happen that any other horror score would be and you're like, oh no, something happened over there visually. But they're actually a sound thing that happened in the movie. And I'm like, wait, what? So there was a sound that happened in the movie that was a piano sound, but I thought that was just a sound for me to get me scared. And I don't know what's actually they're hearing and what I'm hearing. Also, the way they're speaking to each other through these little underwater speakers, it's way too clear and crisp. So I was like, oh, that's a little bit strange, guys. It's fine. It's better than the irritating opposite direction.
Let's have a good time.
Oh my God.
Scared the hell out of me.
Talk about jump scares. Jesus Christ. But that's fine. The characters are just generally kind of irritating. They have no sexual chemistry whatsoever. I'm going to run out of time. Oh my God, guys. I messed up. I messed up bad. Okay, so... but it's really difficult because they say... All right, Kelly, your turn.
I'd like to hear some trivia on this.
Okay, you said you had something really good.
All right, let me just finish this up real quick. All right. So they do say a lot of things rather than see it. And I find that very frustrating throughout. There's just very irritating little moments of, oh my God, did you know the peace sign is evil? Ooh, too bad you got a peace sign sticker. That means something, I guess. There's a lot of really bad quotes like, jump scares get the maximum likes. I'm like, wow, you said that literally out loud. This door could be the door to 1 million views, opens a door. Looks like a bunch of freaks, Tina says, looking at a portrait of totally normal family hanging out together. I'm like, what is happening right here? And my favorite, of course, this will be the last room we look in, I promise. Yeah. So there's just some clunky writing trivia. This is very based off of some H.P. Lovecraft stuff. The Mungatek family motto, which is the family that owns the underwater French house, is "That is not dead which can eternal lie, and which strange eons even death may die." Nice. Yeah. So this is very much got that sort of feel to it. The further you get along in the film, the more you're like, oh, underwater weird cult people, cool family, whoa, fishy. I don't know. Yeah, they've got some of that going on. This was also, I mentioned a name earlier on, the star, one James Jagger. I was like, as I was looking at his picture, I was like, he looks a little bit like another Jagger I've come across before.
Indeed.
They really hid this trivia that he's Mick Jagger's son. They really hid it. I don't know why they hid it. I'm guessing he's sensitive about it or something, but I was like, it took me 3 different clicks to finally get to the truth. I had to really dig for that one. Also, of course, it was shot in Belgium at Light Studio. And the directors explained in Variety that the house was built on a large grid and progressively plunged into a 9-meter deep water tank that was 20 meters wide. We couldn't leave the whole house in the water for days at a time because the decor would have been ruined. So we had to immerse only parts of the house underwater and we're shooting scenes floor by floor. It was a risky shoot. Having the actors and some of the crew go 6 meters deep was very uncommon and difficult to ensure. Maury and Bastillo were not allowed to go down there and were following the shoot across 5 or 6 monitors and 4 cameras. So I would love to have seen like a behind the scenes or something on how this was shot because that's very cool.
Yeah, there must be something like that on a Blu-ray for it, right? I would think.
Probably, but I didn't watch it that way.
I gotta say, I mean, I really liked this movie, but mostly it was because of, I was pulled out in every scene going, how did they fucking shoot this?
Yeah.
So I think I liked it so much because, like you said, it was gorgeous. Mm-hmm. There were some legit creepy shots in there. Mm-hmm. Like the ghost that wanders through the back room or whatever, I thought that was really scary.
Yeah.
And, but I don't think it's a particularly good story.
The story just feels really poorly written. And the actors are just not up to the task of the challenge of a clunky script.
Yeah.
It's just two things working against each other. And I was just like, I wish you guys couldn't talk to each other. I wish your communication was cut off. This film would be so much better. I will say the ghosts, it's cool watching them swim because the way they work, they're very physically present.
Yes.
Yeah. And so having the divers with their fins constantly trying to they are faster, but the ghosts have this constant lugging movement that's just, it works really well. I liked it.
Yeah. So thought that you didn't much care for it when you first saw it.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely didn't sound like you liked it at all.
No, you know what? It was beautiful, and I'm glad I watched it for that part. But the irritation level, this was also one of those films that, much like Eric's, at least in your first few minutes, it thought it was really fucking cool. And it's like, look at these two cool, hot people with this cool soundtrack, and they're doing cool stuff and saying cool things that actually doesn't mean what they think they mean. And they kept that through the whole thing, and I was getting really railroaded by it because I was like, I just need you to stop trying so fucking hard and just let it be a horror film.
All right,
that'll work. Sorry about scaring the crap out of the two you get there.
Oh, it's okay. You may have to lower the volume a little for the audience.
Yeah,
that's a given.
All right, I'm setting the timer, you guys,
all right,
because my movie is from 2012 and is called Sinister.
New details today in the grisly murders of a local family found earlier this week.
I didn't want to move here.
We couldn't afford to live in the old house anymore. Plus, the new story I'm writing is here.
Is the story a good one this time?
I'm gonna write the best book that anybody's ever read. I got a really good feeling about this.
You gotta be kidding me. Family hanging out. Barbecue 79. That's the family who lived here.
You think these are serial murders?
I don't know. The first one I found dates back to the 60s.
The only link between all these cases is the symbol.
The symbol is associated with a pagan deity named Bagul. He consumes the souls of human children.
I have never been onto something this big before.
Early Christians believed that Bagul actually lived in the images themselves and that they were gateways into his realm. Children exposed to the images were especially vulnerable to Bagul's abduction.
Sweetheart, what are you doing?
Painting. I wanted to paint her picture.
Who are you talking about?
Stephanie. She used to live here.
Trevor?
What's the matter? What's happened?
Get the kids, pack the car. We have to leave here now.
All right, he does have 10 minutes, folks. Sorry. He didn't give himself an extra cue.
I know we've all seen this, Eric. You just recently.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Budget of $3 million. Box office of $48 million.
Ooh.
Rotten Tomatoes critics have it at 63%, and the audience has it at 62%, which I thought was surprising because I thought everybody fucking loved this movie but me.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about how great this movie is.
Everybody does talk about how great this movie is.
Yeah, I think. So I decided to give myself a second chance on this because I saw this in the theater and I thought it was just shit.
All right.
Spoiler, my feelings have not changed. Directed by Scott Derrickson, who has 14 credits, including Hellraiser Inferno, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Doctor Strange, and just recently Black Phone.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill, who is apparently a writing partner of his. C. Robert Cargill also wrote Doctor Strange and Black Phone. Starring Ethan Hawke. Part of my problem with this film is I don't like Ethan Hawke.
It doesn't help.
That does not help at all.
Yeah, 97 credits, including Gattaca, which I think is a really good movie.
It is.
Reality Bites, Training Day, Daybreakers, which I think is a really bad movie. Juliet Rylance, 17 credits, including The Artist's Wife, 20 episodes of The Nick, and 9 episodes of Perry Mason. And in a bit part, Vincent D'Onofrio, 115 credits, including Men in Black, The Cell, 141 episodes of Law & Order Criminal Intent. And he, of course, is the Kingpin in the Daredevil series and the Daredevil series that will be coming out again.
Nice. So
this opens with a pretty creepy scene over the opening credits. It is a family being hung, and it's shot like 8mm film. It's a snuff film, basically. We see somebody is cutting a branch that the family is all kind of tied to. It's a counterweight thing, and as the branch starts dipping lower and lower, the family is being lifted off of their feet, and they're being hung. They're all wearing bags over their heads, and it is a pretty creepy and effective scene. And as I'm watching this the second time, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe this is going to work for me. We then meet Ellison Oswalt, who is a washed-up true crime writer moving into a new town to get information for his new book. And I really like how the writers have parsed out the information in the beginning of this. They're moving into this new house, and the police chief shows up as they're moving in, and Ellison's wife tells him to be nice. She's tired of getting pulled over all the time. And the cop's there to tell him, look, I don't know what you're doing here, but we're not fans. Basically, he's been really hard on cops in his books. And at one point, he got somebody killed by putting misinformation into his book. God, I hate that term, misinformation. He put the wrong information into his book and it got somebody killed. So they're new in town for info on a series of murders that he's researching and all that, but he hasn't told them that they have moved into the house of the last family that was murdered.
Cool.
Yeah. Pretty quickly, he finds a box of film reels in the attic, and they're all of these filmed murders. They have cute little names on them that are funny when you start watching them and everything, because it's stuff like a sleepy time, and then it's a video of people getting their throats slit while they're in bed. There's one of a woman being burned alive in a car. There's a pretty impressive one where people are tied to lounge chairs in front of a pool, and then they are pulled in from a rope into the pool, and they are all drowned that way. And now he's on the case of this killer who is called Mr. Boogie, who may or may not be supernatural. The film killings, they're all really creepy. They're all silent 8mm films, and they are scored with super creepy music and, of course, jump scares throughout every single one of them and all that. And spoiler, Mr. Boogie is supernatural. He is a minor demon called Boogal, and I like that aspect of the film well enough. I think that I think it starts working in a, unfortunately, a very Blumhouse kind of way. It just feels like, they're going for the whole Insidious thing again and all of that shit. But then the film falls into this category that I call procedural horror, which I really do not like unless it's amazing. Like The Ring is procedural horror and it's fucking amazing. Right. Or The Changeling is procedural horror. Other movies do this in small ways that work very well. Like in The Omen, Gregory Peck is like finding clues that's leading him closer, but it's not him sitting down doing a ton of research, which I just fucking hate. But then I am reminded that this guy's big hit before this was The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is a courthouse drama horror.
Oh, well, there you go.
So to help him in his research, he's got a deputy who is a fan of his, of course, who's kind of working under the radar of the police chief. He's got a demonologist who is Vincent D'Onofrio, who's helping with other stuff. He literally might as well be named Basil Exposition because he comes in at every time we need to know some information on a Zoom call and tells him, this, and that's how we get Bugal. And we get an actually pretty good thing where Ethan Hawke burns all of the video or all the 8mm tapes, and he's just like, enough of this. I can't have this. It's screwing up my dreams and all this stuff. And right after that, there's when Basil Exposition tells him all about this demon, and the people who had dealt with him before were always afraid of what might happen if they destroyed the material he was on. And Ethan Hawke's like, well, what would happen if you destroyed the material? Oh, well, you're fucked, basically. Now you've let him out into the real world. And I was like, well, that's kind of clever. I kind of like that. It all spirals out of control, of course. This is a movie about loud noises and jump scares. And although I like the very downbeat ending, I still think this movie is absolute fucking trash. Vanessa, I feel like you're kind of on the same page with me on this.
Yeah, I remember watching this being like, this is fucking stupid.
And just being infuriated that your very smart friends were like, oh my God, scariest movie ever.
I just remember a lot of people really liking it. And I was like, what part? Like, I mean, yes, the eerie, little movie reels and stuff like those are really fun.
Yeah. Well, wasn't this the one that was scientifically diagnosed?
That's in my notes here.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so I've got some trivia. Writer Robert Cargill got the idea for the script from a nightmare he had after watching The Ring, a much better procedural horror.
Oh, well, there you go.
Jeez.
The family that was hanged on the tree in the beginning I was talking about, all played by stuntmen. However, when the scene was first done, the stunt coordinator botched the preparations for the scene, resulting in the actors being legitimately hanged and choked. Fortunately, they survived, and the coordinator was fired right afterwards.
Good.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
It's kind of weird that shit like this is still happening after the Twilight Zone movie.
Oh, it will for a long time.
According to co-writer C. Robert Cargill, Bughuul, or Mr. Boogie, was originally intended to look more like Johnny Depp in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Jesus Christ.
After going over this idea, it was decided that the deity looking like Willy Wonka would be too silly for the film and not scary or mysterious enough. And so finally a photo was found on Google Images that Cargill bought the rights to, and this was the basis for the final Bughuul design. That's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
In 2020, Forbes magazines conducted a study, Science of Scare Project, where the heart rate of the viewers were monitored while they watched a number of horror films. Out of 35 films, this movie won, having the highest average heart rate at 86, spiking at 131 beats per minute, thus it often being deemed the scariest movie ever made.
Oh my God.
135 while watching a movie? That is high.
Yeah.
Who were these
All
arts?
that research was terrifying.
Oh, hey. All right.
The thing that pisses me off so much about the jump scares in this, and jump scares in any movie, is that it's like a stand-up comedian running out into the audience and tickling you and then going, I must be hilarious because you're laughing.
Yeah.
A scary loud noise and then something popping up on the screen is always going to make people jump. Right. That is not a legitimate scare. Oh.
Speaking of jump scares.
Yeah, a trash movie. I don't get all the love for it. Although looking at the 62% from the audience, I was like, maybe I'm just in a weird bubble where my stupid friends think.
I think I remember feeling like the protagonist I didn't much care for.
No.
Sitting around watching him like in his attic, I didn't much care for. The design of the boogie dude, I was like, this is stupid.
Would it have been better if he looked like Willy Wonka?
It would have been better if he was, I don't know. I have no clue. If he was just a shadow on a wall. But I think you're right. Like there's something to be said about like jump scares are just so cheap and so frustrating. And you can have a few, it's fine. But the true fear and the true scare of a really well done horror comes from something much deeper and darker and off-putting. Like I still think of The Night House when they just shift perspective and you see like a form appear and disappear and appear and that will freak me out and sit with me way longer than like a boo.
For sure, yeah.
I think there's a weird thing with jump scares. I think they can be absolutely phenomenal. But it's not the, oh my God, it's a cat kind of jump scares. It's the Exorcist 3 jump scare. It's the one that was in that movie I just watched, The Hurt, where things were built up a long time and then something unexpected happened that actually was a point of the movie, not just,
it's like
it's been a little slow for a while. Let's have a cat hiss or a board drop or something and scare the audience. That's stupid.
Well, you just saw this movie just recently, like this month.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts?
I thought it was fine. I mean, I didn't watch it at that time it came out because there's a lot of Blumhouse stuff, especially from that period, that I didn't care for. I didn't like what they were trying to do. This one isn't quite as bad with that. My biggest problem with Blumhouse films in their haunted house ones, what's the big one? The
Conjuring?
Paranormal
yeah, the Conjuring ones, where it starts off kind of cool and creepy, but then they have to build it. It ends up being a frigging action movie of haunted things. This doesn't do that, at least.
No.
But it, which I was like, so that helped me like it just a little bit more. But yeah, I think you're both right with, I think they miscast their lead.
Well, it's hard then to argue, though, with a $3 million budget that gets $48 million return on it. That their plan, or at least their model back then was, Ethan Hawke, come on, you're going to be sleeping on my couch. We're going to be making this movie. Yeah. You're going to get a deferred payment. But if this turns out to be Paranormal Activity, your deferred payment is going to be way more than you ever would have got as a flat fee. Yeah. And that's what did happen with this one for him.
Oh, it's a successful film, but there's a lot of successful films that aren't necessarily good.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you guys watch, I think this is the right one, Sinister 2, where they couldn't get anyone back except for like one of the dopey cop characters, and you only follow this dude through the whole film. It
like his deputy buddy?
Yes.
Okay.
It is intolerable to sit through. Absolutely intolerable. So I think that also sours my opinion, and like it just didn't, just stop.
Yeah, it's weird. Blumhouse is, I guess they're kind of like a let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, because you get out,
right?
And you also get Sinister or
and you get
Activity.
Like they're experimenting with TV, like they had that Hulu series, which I think now they sold over to somebody else. So, they're constantly trying stuff out, and I think that that's actually very cool. And I'm really glad they didn't just stick with that one formula and only do it, because it was a pretty irritating era of horror. But
there's also something cool about having a legitimate Hollywood film studio that is focusing mostly on horror.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yep. Yeah, there's some respect for what Jason does as the way he runs a company. He's a modern Roger Corman with a base much larger budget overall, but he's just, you're right. Throw this. Let's make 15, 20 cheap movies a year instead of $200 million tentpole films,
right?
And see what happens.
Yeah, and stuff like the Halloween trilogy and all that. That's going to pay for a lot of these smaller films, either not getting their budget back or.
And then they have like unexpected hits, like Malignant, probably.
Right.
Which will give them a lot of money to play with for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Works.
Yeah, this has been a fun one. I know that we had done a Full Moon kind of twice because we did some Charles Band stuff before. But yeah, Blumhouse would be a fun one to relook at down the road because there's some cool, interesting stuff in there.
I think that the first 2 Conjuring movies are legitimately creepy.
Yeah, the first, I really like the first.
shots.
I think the first one's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That little clap moment.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus. And that it's more down the line. And then some of the sideline movies that haunted ones they made that came out of that were really like, stop.
So, okay, I don't know. I know next episode is number 200, you guys. And I don't know if we actually have a pick for our genre. I do know we have something fun coming up that we have talked about that Vanessa has forgotten.
What? We've talked about it. Yes.
Oh, I mean, I know of several things we've talked about, but which one you were referring to, I do not know.
Here's the thing. I know that we're going to be talking about some movies. We're going to be doing something completely different and fun, and then we'll figure it all out. But I know that it's happening in episode 200. Can you guys believe it? 200.
1 week away.
Wow, 200. I've sat in this room. Well, not quite 200 times with you.
Not just this one.
With you guys for hours talking about movies, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't sure that's how that sentence was going to end, but I appreciate it.
After these last 2 episodes with the ticking time bomb over here, it's been great. Well, it was great.
Right. Yeah, we'll see how that evolves. I don't know if this is going to be a long time.
I show up, I wake up one morning, the timer's broken mysteriously.
It's just missing the bell. Yeah, I can spin. You can spin all at once. It's not going to do anything when it gets to 0.
This is the part where I thank everybody for liking and sharing posts, participating in the value for value model, and just hanging in through all of this stuff. Yeah. I hope you are enjoying that we are streamlining the show a little bit and changing it towards, something we hope is going to be the best possible version of Strange Eons Radio.
Why not evolve?
Yeah. Okay, so that is the show. We will be back in 7 short days where we are going to be celebrating with you episode 200, and we will see you then.
Give us a call.
Transportation and other considerations for Strange Eons Radio produced by Pan Am Airlines. When you think of traveling, think of Pan Am. You can't beat the experience. Guests of Strange Eons Radio stay at Econo Lodge Everett. It's an easy stop on the road, you know what we mean. Strange Eons Radio is recorded live in front of a studio audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. Sit, Ubu, sit.
I'm going to run out of time. Oh my God, guys. I messed up. I messed up bad.